I have some Star Trek fan fiction for you. This is Nurse Chapel.
Space.
Captain's Log 2234.6. Enterprise nurse Christine Chapel is facing her first day in court related to first-degree murder charges in the death of science intern Darla Bush. Bush was found at the bottom of the turbo lift, crushed in what was first determined to be a mechanical malfunction, but was later changed to sabotage of the brake circuit. Chapel's biological signature was collected at the scene, as well as witness observations of her behavior weeks before and the day of the incident. Against the advice of counsel, Chapel requested to take the stand in her own defense and was the first to be called to the stand. She was sworn in, and the prosecutor for Starfleet approached the bench. "Did you in fact murder or cause the death of science intern Darla Bush?" the prosecutor asked. He was short, blunt, and to the point. "No, I did not," Chapel replied, firmly with conviction in her voice. "What was your relationship with the deceased, Miss Bush?" "Professional," Chapel replied flatly. "Can you elaborate?" the prosecutor asked. "I can only recall a handful of conversations in sickbay, a few in Spock's office, mostly small talk. We didn't hang out." "Would you consider her a friend?" "Acquaintance, maybe," Chapel replied. "We weren't friends." "Why did you visit Mr. Spock in his office?" "Mr. Spock and I are longtime friends, or were," Chapel replied. "Were?" the prosecutor asked. "What changed in your relationship with Mr. Spock?" "Spock stopped talking to me after her death." "Do you know why?" "Objection," the defense lawyer said. "She can't testify for what Mr. Spock felt after his intern's death." "Sustained," the judge said. "Did Spock ever tell you why he stopped talking to you?" "No," Chapel replied. "Was Mr. Spock a love interest of yours?" "We never dated," Chapel replied. "Did you have romantic feelings for him?" "Maybe at one point," Chapel replied. "What changed your mind?" the prosecutor asked. "It's hard to maintain a crush on a robot," Chapel stated, looking at the floor. "Did you tell Mr. Spock of your interest?" "Not in so many words," Chapel said, "but I think he knew." "I see," the prosecutor said, pacing back and forth. "Did you find Miss Bush to be a competition for Mr. Spock's affections?" "What do you mean?" "Were you jealous of Miss Bush's relationship with her supervisor, Mr. Spock?" Chapel chuckled and acted like the question was absurd. "Of course not. She was not his type." "And what type was that?" the prosecutor asked. "I can't explain," Chapel said. "They were like oil and water." "Did you, in fact, get into an argument in the mess hall with Miss Bush about Mr. Spock that led to you getting written up for your behavior?" Chapel shuffled in her seat uncomfortably. She wasn't treating him right. "All I did was give her advice, which she chose to ignore," Chapel replied. "What was the nature of the advice you gave her?" "I told her it was inappropriate for her to visit Mr. Spock in his private quarters after work, that it looked unprofessional," Chapel replied. "May I ask why that was any of your business?" Taken aback, Chapel replied, "I didn't want Mr. Spock to get in trouble because of her inappropriate behavior. You know how people talk and spread rumors." "Did you speak to Mr. Spock about your concerns?" the prosecutor asked. "No," Chapel replied. "Why not?" "I thought she would be smart enough to stop once I spoke to her. I didn't feel the need to involve Mr. Spock." "Did she indeed stop?" "No. In fact, she visited him more often than before. It was like she was trying to spite me," Chapel replied. "How would you describe your relationship with her after you had the argument in the mess hall?" "I avoided her," Chapel replied. "Is that true?" "I have several reports of vandalization of her personal property with no resolution." "Are you responsible for the destruction of her belongings?" "Objection," the defense lawyer said. "My client is not on trial for vandalism." "Sustained," the judge said. "Can you explain how your DNA was found at the scene of Miss Bush's death?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes, she picked a fight with me in the hall prior to getting in the turbo lift. And I slapped her," Chapel replied. "I never denied that." "What was the fight about?" "She called me a bitch," Chapel replied. "Don't ask me why. I didn't provoke her. We were in the hall crossing paths, and she attacked me." "Were there witnesses?" "Check the camera. It's all there, Chappell replied. The prosecutor retrieved a tablet from his desk and stepped over to the witness stand. According to Mr. Spock's deposition, you did, in fact, have more than one confrontation with the deceased concerning his relationship with Miss Bush, and he stated that, and I quote, Nurse Chappell became agitated when Miss Bush was brought up into our conversation and made many disparaging comments about how much time we spent together. Do you disagree with Mr. Spock's sworn testimony? I wouldn't say agitated, but I did tell him that people would talk, and I didn't want her dragging him through the mud, Chappell said. To your knowledge, is Mr. Spock married, or was Miss Bush? No, he's not, Chappell said. Neither was she. Then why did you think it was your place to tell him with whom to associate? She was too young for him, and I felt people would think poorly of their relationship. I was protecting Mr. Spock, Chappell replied. I didn't want to see his reputation destroyed. Are you an expert on relationships, Nurse Chappell? Is that part of your nursing scope of practice? No, I just felt it was wrong. If I did, others would as well. Had any of the other crew discussed the relationship between Mr. Spock and Miss Bush prior to the incident? The prosecutor asked. Yes, I spoke with a few close friends, Chappell replied. Not professionally? The prosecutor said flat. No, not professionally, Chappell replied. Your witness, the prosecutor said, and walked back to his table. Hey, I got lots of these things on this page. All you need to do is go back and look for them. I got them on a playlist. Ringy-dinging the bell. Follow me, follow me, follow me. I have a whole bunch of these, and I got more coming down the pipe. And I want to talk about, who do we have here today? Oh, this was kind of about Mr. Spock. I don't have a Christine Chappell doll, but I do have a Mr. Spock. So Mr. Spock's, he's a cool guy, and he wants you to ringy-dingy the bell, ding, 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 heard that, ding, 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 and become a member of my group. I don't know. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this, and stay tuned for more.